We are live.
Well, welcome back to Vault Labs podcast, where we discuss the future of gaming and technology. Today, we're going to dive in deep about Zach's crypto background and kind of get some insight from his opinion since he's been in the
Oh
game for
yeah.
a while. Zach, how long have you been aware of crypto?
Aware. Aware of the intricacies of it. Not that long. I mean, since probably 2014. I've been aware of mining culture and knowing much more about crypto. But before that, like 2015, 2014, 2015, before that, I knew about it through my first ever company that I ever ran was a gaming network. And some of the more geeky players on the game basically wanted to buy packages and things in game, and they were using all we had at the time was PayPal as a payment processor for credit cards, and we swapped and said, or they people were asking and wondering if we could take Bitcoin as payment, and I was like, "What is Bitcoin?" And they were like, they explained to me it's like a digital currency online, and I was like, sounds kind
Uh,
of shady. I was also really young, so I really wasn't. We were making money with credit card processing, and it was working, and I was like, I don't really want to go into this, but I think like a year of them chipping away at it, like they finally got me to switch over to it, and I think we sold probably the equivalent of like $100 or $200 worth of stuff. It was like nothing in Bitcoin.
okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but and it was, but at the time that was like, I remember we had like between 12 and 15 Bitcoin on a wallet. Um, and the way that we set it up was really janky. There was no merchant places like that you could, no company processing Bitcoin transactions for companies.
Yeah.
You had to basically set like okay, if you send the Bitcoin, you're trying to hit this amount, and if you don't hit, if it doesn't average to this amount in like 30 minutes, you got to send a little bit more or whatever. And it was like really janky. Like we'd have to watch it physically, and that's kind of why we didn't do a whole lot of the transactions, because it required like two people just to do a
Yeah, so
transaction.
now in the time you were running that, what was the kind of fluctuation of the price at that
It
point,
Yeah, so
and
it
the
was.
volume being traded?
Yeah, so it was nowhere as close to what it is now. Like when it moves, like it didn't cascade as much, but it definitely cascaded a lot. But the around that point in time, leverage trading and futures trading were not a problem. Like they weren't in existence.
Yeah.
So the amount of um, capital flowing at one point in time wasn't the same as it is now, because now when somebody wants to make a decision, they make a decision with five times more money than they have.
That is. So then what's the first experience as far as what kind of got you into deciding to mine? So you said you took the gaming game that you had going on and you took payments to begin with, and then you transitioned that into, did you say, hey, this is working, or this is something that could be actually feasible in the future?
Yeah, no, I mean, so I had a friend in my early like childhood years that was like, "Hey, we should mine Bitcoin. We should mine Bitcoin. We should mine Bitcoin." And I was like, I remembered it because I remembered that we sold Bitcoin packages to those people in the game. Um, but I was like, it just seemed like such a dodgy investment to me at the time to like try to mine Bitcoin. I don't really even understand what was happening at the time, and I mean, if you think about it on paper, it just sounds really odd to be
Yeah.
mining Bitcoin, and then you're like saying, "Oh no, it's not mining," and you're like, everyone's like, "Oh, your pickaxe and whatever." It's like no, but yeah, but that's like a legitimate reason. That's like a legitimate thing to think about. Like as soon as somebody says like, "Oh, you're Bitcoin mining," like I had a lot of people like ask me if I use heavy equipment when I tell them that I'm a Bitcoin miner or like I mined Bitcoin for a
Yes, I
couple
use
years.
excavators.
Yeah, yeah, but no, I mean I thought of it, and we didn't. Basically, we started mining by just running it on a computer and seeing like how it works, and wondering, like we were just wondering like what's happening. And at the time we realized that you needed to have you really, to make a lot of money, you could use a GPU or whatever, and make like some money with Bitcoin mining, but the difficulty of mining had gone up pretty significantly from like when I was a kid and I first heard about mining. So we got some of the first ASIC miners that were in existence from like a big company. And what we did was we got $40,000. It's like between $40,000 and $50,000, and we bought like we pooled it and we bought a whole batch of miners. And the shipping time like was super long, and we didn't get any tracking information, and we thought that we had been completely ripped off. Like we thought that they weren't going to show up at all, and we were freaking out because we borrowed, at the time we borrowed like 20,000 of that 50,000 or more. It might have
Wow.
been like 30,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we were like panicking, and then one day just a pallet of miners showed up, and we set them up as our test batch to kind of prove that this was a viable thing. And I remember it was really complicated because it was like 20 or 30 miners,
Mhm.
maybe more. It might have been 40. Uh, and you like at first you think, okay, I just get this and it's a money tree. But in reality, it's a really complicated process to set them up and get them so that they'll run for a long period of time without having problems. So we had a office space, and we took a closet that had a window in it in the office space, and we took the window out of the wall, and we put two box fans in the place of the window, and we duct taped them to the wall and created like a seal around the box fans. And then we put a Walmart shelf up, like a Walmart bread rack up, and we put
uh,
all the miners on that shelf, and we double stacked it, and we had all the miners on that shelf. And
wow.
I remember we set it up like in a day, and then
Mhm.
so we spent the 50 grand. A month went by, we got the miners. The week that we had the miners, we made the 50 grand back in less than a week. So then from there, you have like every time that we would make, we were like shocked. We were like, there's no way, the
Yeah,
payout
that's
got dropped in.
crazy, especially
Yeah,
as a
less than a
teenager.
week. Yeah, less than a week, we had $50,000 back. So we had our investment back, and we were like, okay. So then what we did was we waited for it to be another 50,000, and we just went with the next 50,000, and we just bought the same amount of miners again. And we just kept doing that. Every time that we would reach our last investment period, we would just
Yeah.
buy more, like every single time. And eventually we ended up with, I mean, like we ended up with over 2,000 ASIC miners, and we ended up expanding into another warehouse. But that's kind of how it started, was with that dicey thing. We weren't able to buy miners in bulk and in access anymore, after probably a third or fourth purchase that we made, because so many people wanted miners. And that was when we had to establish a partnership with
So,
the mining company.
so let me ask this: is when you first got started and started mining,
Yep.
was your immediate first? You said your proof of concept was buying $50,000 worth of miners.
Yeah.
So your first intuition was like, how did you even figure out that you can buy these miners, find a distributor, know what to do? You weren't like, oh, I can mine this on my
It
laptop
was
or computer. You were like, let's take it to next level
yeah.
right away.
It was like really, so like really it comes down to calculating the hashing power of a computer versus the hashing power of like an ASIC unit. And at the time, I think you could get basically a graphics card at the time did what's called, like, it was in the category of gigahashes, or even like, yeah, no, I think it was gigahashes, and it was not even that many gigahashes, which is like, it's a measurement of power, hashing power. Think about it as the ability of a device to solve Bitcoin's algorithm and reward you more money. Like the more hashing power you have, the more money you're getting, basically.
Yeah.
And a graphics card that like most people know about, like a GTX whatever, a NVIDIA graphics card, generally at the time that I'm talking about was in the 100 to 120 gigahash range or something around that. Um, and I think, or maybe it was even like 12 gigahash or something. It was like a really small amount of hashing power, which was equivalent to like a couple bucks a day, like $10 a day or $7 a day at the time for Bitcoin. But then you could buy these ASIC devices. And the other thing is you have to build a rig for every single like graphics card that you want to have. So you have to build like a stack or a rig and have like two graphics cards in it, and it would be like kind of pointless because you could just play video games on it or like mine Bitcoin, and it wasn't like a scalable way to do it.
Yeah.
So we knew that to scale something and like grow it, we were gonna have to be able to put these things that are specifically for it up and just in sequence and just keep putting them up and up and up until we had like a ton of them. But when you sat down and you did the math at the time, you realized really quick, like with the purchase price of these miners and the amount of Bitcoin that they mine a day, it's a like crazy decision to not see through.
Yeah.
And that's really how we convinced, I think like, yeah, we borrowed a lot of that initial investment. So just from people like around our area.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
yeah,
I
so I
mean,
mean,
that's really... So
it
what do
was,
you
yeah.
what do you say that, you getting into it? What's your ratio, do you believe, of hard work versus luck?
Yeah, I mean, I always say I was really lucky with the timing, just especially for that. I was lucky with timing for a lot of things in the crypto space. I think the ratio of luck to work. The thing is, everybody assumes that Bitcoin mining is really just you're plugging in a computer, and it can be that if you have a process set up and you have like it's a complex situation to solve. Like when you have mass computers that generate hundreds of degrees of heat
Mhm.
in a building. Also, you have like the power consumption level just is so high, and then government problems and everything. So, I think like it's probably a 50-50 blend, but it just helped timing wise. Timing wise, definitely helped on the luck side because we wouldn't have been able to expand as quickly as we did, and we wouldn't have had the labor problems that we did if we weren't expanding at the rate that we did. Like if we were only buying 5 miners a month, it wouldn't have
Yeah.
been that big of a deal. But
Yeah.
since we were buying hundreds of miners a month, it's much more complex because you actually have to like build the early ones. You had to build them when they showed up. You had to like solder wires.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it
Wow.
was. Yeah, I mean it was a lot.
Yeah, because I forget who says it, but like a quote I like is it's like, luck is where hard work meets preparation. And that's like, so many people
It's a good
probably say,
quote.
hey, you got really lucky, good timing. But in fact, it's like if they were in your exact same shoes, they would have not actually purchased miners or not actually gone through, or they would have saw the $40,000 coming in and said, this is awesome. Let's just sit here
Yeah,
and not reinvest. So I think it's cool, but definitely it takes that ability to hold firm and say we're doubling down, we're going to do this, and actually have that gut
yeah. I
to
mean,
push forward.
and in that case, I mean, just think about think about this mental game, right? You have miners coming in, and you know that it's difficult to set up a miner, and you know that maybe it's hard to get like the zoning changed on your building and get a new electrical thing, like a new electrical panel set up, and you know it's going to be hard to get an electrician in there to validate everything and get the like everything inspected. But then you think about the fact that every single computer at one point in time was making us $300 to $400 a day. Every
Yeah.
computer. So it's just like every computer that's sitting there, you plug it in, it's making you $300 or $400 a day. It was a like mine. It was like you couldn't even think about, like, it's just all you had to do is plug it in at the end of the
Yeah.
day. If you could
You're
find a
like,
place,
give me
like we
more
were looking
miners.
for, yeah, we had so many miners that we couldn't even fit any more into our building because the power was restricted. And we started just running them in other buildings. Like, just we would just go and find other buildings to run them in. I think at one point we were running them in like 3 or 4 buildings,
Yeah.
like on top of our warehouse.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, and then it became a scramble of, I mean, before we established the partnership to get like direct miners from the manufacturer, it was a scramble to even get miners. I mean, we hosted a party one time because they limited the company had such high demand for miners, and they wanted to keep it decentralized and not allow one individual or company to buy like a massive amount of miners, because then they're controlling a bigger share and it's not as decentralized as like if you, me, somebody else, like if it's divided up into everybody else. So they limited the purchases of these miners. First they upped the cost, like they doubled the cost of them, and then they limited the purchase to like one per user, like one per person, per batch. And I remember we would have like we did this twice. We had parties where every person who came, we would have cash, and we would give the person like the cash, and then they would use their card and ID to buy the miner and get it shipped here. So we would have 1 or 2 miners for every single person that would come, because we just couldn't get enough miners. Like, and
Yeah.
we were like, it was at the time, it was like a brainless decision to
Yeah.
just keep buying miners, because I mean, the numbers were so crazy.
So were you afraid that like other people it was going to eventually catch up and you were just going to be
Yeah.
all of a suddenly washed out one day?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely knew, that our time was short, and that's kind of why we were rushing so hard. I mean, it like you would have looked at this facility and you think like, okay, one of the biggest mining operations in New York State, it's gonna look pristine in there. Like, it's gonna look like a clean room data center, all AC or water cooled units. It's gonna be great. Like, there's gonna be no. I mean, we threw this thing together so fast that there was no possible way that it was going to look like that. I mean, we bought a 40,000 square foot building that was an abandoned building, just to try to get the miners up and running as fast as possible wherever we could find power. I mean, it was very little retrofitting, very little construction before we just started putting up shelves and hoping for the best, because we knew that our window of opportunity was small. I mean, you're only
Yeah.
making $400 a day per miner for a little bit of time before everyone else in the world is like, you can make $400 a day from plugging in a computer,
Yeah.
basically, and then they're
So is
buying
this
it and trying
when
to figure it
when
out.
you were doing this, is this something you were keeping very on the down low?
Yeah,
Or were you telling people?
no, we didn't tell anybody. I mean, I told other people. People knew that I was doing it, but they didn't know what it was. A lot of people thought that I was like a criminal. Like, a lot of my friends from my childhood thought that I was like a big time criminal.
Well,
Um,
that's
so,
fine. So what's the lowest price of Bitcoin that you had?
well, okay. So aside from the stuff that we sold packages in our online game,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother in a way. But aside from that, our mining company sold hundreds of Bitcoin below $1,000 a coin. So, I mean, sometimes at a time,
Yeah.
just to cover power costs. So,
So what's
like
do you know the
800,
most
700, like
do you know
it.
the most Bitcoin you mine in a day?
Um, yeah, I should know that. So we would mine, like, on average. I mean, it's hard because it changed so much. But at
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
like
yeah.
when we were making all that money, like $400 a day per miner, we were mining. I want to say, like, I don't know, 20 a day or 30, or 50 a day. It was between
Yeah.
20 and 50 a day. It depends also because The problem is we use the pool. I mean, it's not a problem, but the hard
Yeah.
part to say like a specific amount of Bitcoin in a day is because we used a pool. So sometimes your pool, even if you're mining independently, which we were with some of our miners, um, this is a rabbit hole, but it's like basically if you don't understand mining, you can buy a miner or run a mining program on your computer, and you can run it what's called, like, we call it raw or solo. And what that means is that you are mining, your little miner is in a sea of all the other miners, and the odds that your little miner finds a block and gets a Bitcoin in reward are very, very, very low. But if you were to find a block or a bit, and get rewarded in Bitcoin, it's not just a Bitcoin. It is like, at the time, it's like it's an enormous amount of money. It's like a lot of money. But theoretically, your one little device that cost you anywhere from 1,000 to 10 grand could find you like a chunk of 250K,
Mhm.
or more. So you can mine solo, or what most people do in that scenario, if they want a consistent payout, where they can actually cover their power cost, they join a pool, which is like you're joining a whole bunch of other people so that you divide that reward. And what we did for a little while was we tested and thought, like, okay, because actually the ASIC miners started to get a little more advanced. Like, you could look into the stats of them and figure out if your individual miners had found a block
Yeah.
and like started to solve it. So there was some miners where like we would plug them in, and you just think, like, you think to yourself, you're like, man, if I would have just not run this on a pool, because all the difference is you're either giving it to the pool, running for the pool, or you would get it all for yourself. So that's where it was hard to, because when we mined solo, there was days where we found a block,
Wow.
or we would find like 2 blocks. I think we got 2 blocks in a day. So it was like those days you're getting like hundreds of Bitcoin.
I was gonna say, so that's a full group of
Right.
Bitcoin.
And the
Yeah.
way that Bitcoin's algorithm works on a like really simple level with like cascading is that amount that you get in reward for a block, it divides by 2
Mm.
every, I don't know. It's like some cyclic
Yeah.
thing, but it divides by 2, or maybe even more than 2. I should know this, but like off the top of my head, I can't even think of what the number is.
Yeah, because that's kind of has caused the bull
Yeah.
markets in the last few years. Um,
I think it was
Very
like
interesting.
12 at one point that we were mining. It was like 12 Bitcoin in a block, but then it was before that it was like 24, I think, and then before that it was like
Yeah.
whatever.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I think this to kind of move off that in specific, I had a couple of just general questions.
Yeah.
So talking about, you know, cr- Bitcoin crypto just as a whole, what we're seeing right now in this, you would say winter. Um, what's your opinion with, cryptocurrency right now following the stock market as it moves up and down?
That's a good
Do you think
question.
because it's kind of supposed to be independent from it? Do you know what's your opinion on that?
So I've seen kind of both. I think that before the futures market was there for Bitcoin and Ethereum and whatever else. I mean, almost everything has a futures trading platform up for it now. But before that was there, uh, Bitcoin did not trend with the stock market as much as it does now. Now, because of the fact that I think so much new volume and new traders came in around the COVID era, like when everybody was home and like the Wall Street bets thing was happening and Elon was talking about Dogecoin and all that stuff. I think you have such a mass inflow of people coming in that now the same people who are investing in stocks are just looking for other semi different risk factor things, and you have kind of a lot of crypto moving like crypto used to move, but just kind of proportionally with the stock market. So like crypto now, I've noticed almost never goes up as the stock market's going down.
Hmm.
And who knows? Who really knows like what
Yeah,
moves
yeah.
things, But
So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do
do
you
you
think?
think I think as a whole, what you're probably saying is you're right. Like I think like the whales within like crypto, like the traditional whales in a stock market, kind of over the last few years have transitioned more into crypto, and that's where you're seeing a lot more of like the moves and weaves is when obviously a large sum of money gets pulled or pushed inside of it. Um, but like you said, there could be 10,000 different factors that's contributing to it. I'm just curious because I know that's like a whole concept. Is it's supposed to be separate, decentralized, independent? So
Yeah.
what's your opinion? What's your opinion with leverage within crypto? Do you think that using 500x leverage in crypto or the ability to use that is actually ruining the true utilization of crypto?
Um, it's hard to say. I would start my answer by saying that I don't think that it's a good idea to use 500x leverage
Come
unless
on,
unless
why not?
unless somebody's a time traveler and they told you like exactly what's going to happen over the next like 15 seconds. I would never recommend somebody use 500x leverage or like even 250x or 100x. I mean, 50x is like crazy. So,
Yeah.
but I think so. It's hard to say because the price would not have moved up the same way and gotten and captured such a large market cap. It just wouldn't have happened. Also, just the more avenues for people to invest and grab coins. It really depends on what you view crypto's importance as, because
Yeah.
if you view it as Ethereum's an important thing because the technology is going to change the world, it's different than you viewing Ethereum as Ethereum needs to go up because I need to make money off Ethereum, which both are
Yeah.
valid things. Like I think like as an investment, you want something to do well, but if you understand the investment and you understand like the technology behind it, it's a hard balancing equation between the two. So I think to answer your question, I think that leverage and any trading platform and method of buying will get the word out of it more, and
Mm.
then the more money that's flowing into something and around something, I think the more development happens in that space.
Yeah.
It's a question of will it become just a Ponzi generator, like because the
Yeah.
more people who get involved in something for financial reasons, the less groundbreaking it tends to end up, if it's especially
Mm.
if it's an easy way to make money. Like if it's an easy
Yeah.
way to make money, like it just becomes diluted really fast.
Yeah. And that's
um,
that's kind of what I would say is I think definitely it's interesting because if you're trying to get Ethereum to a point where it's actually being utilized and adopted across, multitude of platforms where you can really spend it and not worry about the price fluctuating hugely on a day, like hour to hour basis, even minute to minute basis, is I think that 500x leverage definitely throws those swings
yeah.
in it. Um, so, okay, so what's kind of your thoughts on your next few years? Do you think Ethereum will continue to have a rise back up to where it was? What's like a price range that you think Ethereum will
Yeah.
realistically cap out at before it starts to be adopted into the modern market?
So I personally, I like Ethereum. I have a better emotional connection to Ethereum and like brain connection to Ethereum than 99% of other cryptocurrency. I think Bitcoin is the father of crypto. I don't
Yeah.
think that Bitcoin. I am not one of these guys that's like, oh, because I ran a Bitcoin thing for forever, I'm only going to talk about Bitcoin. I only care about Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm not one of these guys. I think that Ethereum are doing, um, every developer at Ethereum, not every developer, but a lot of the developers at Ethereum are doing things because they think that something will be useful in the future. Some are doing things just to grab money as fast as they possibly can. But projects built on Ethereum and developers at Ethereum are doing such a good job at creating groundbreaking concepts, uh, that I think it's impossible to ignore. So that's how I'll start it. Is like I really adore Ethereum and I like the technology that's behind it, and I think that their organization as a whole is doing things right. I think that like people have really high expectations of them, and sometimes it's hard to have a have something that's so groundbreaking in so many ways, follow through and
Yeah.
like actually achieve the high set goals that they have, especially when it's a decentralized. I mean, it's like they're trying to decentralize everything, which makes it like nobody's ever done that. So
Yeah.
it's just it becomes a really hard equation to solve, but they're achieving it. People are mad that ETH 2.0 is delayed super far, but I think that when it comes around, it's good. They're gonna do it right. That's why they're taking so long on it, is because they don't want to release some like garbage product.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think we'll actually see that soon? I know it's been talked about for like 5 years. It keeps, getting pushed back and
I
pushed back.
I don't know. I think maybe it would be great, for anybody who's holding, especially if they're holding staked, like I'm holding staked, Ethereum that's contingent on ETH 2.0 releasing. So
Mm.
it'll be great for those people who are, who believe in Ethereum and who put money behind a staking contract for Ethereum 2. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have any insider information on Ethereum. But for pricing, I genuinely could see Ethereum sitting above $10,000 easily.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see Ethereum sitting over 20,000 in my opinion at some point. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not it because the thing is, if you look at the market cap differentiation between Ethereum and Bitcoin, if it were to actually be realized. The problem is everybody looks at cryptocurrency and they think immediately, if they know nothing about it, they think Bitcoin or
Yeah.
Dogecoin now, which is
Yeah.
terrible. Like it's like the like I mean it's not terrible. It's good that they know about it and it's good that whatever is going on, and I guess people like Elon apparently say that Ethereum or that Dogecoin is like a utilizable, cryptocurrency and it's actually functional. But I don't think it's anywhere even close to Ethereum. But nobody really like off rip knows what Ethereum is if they don't know what cryptocurrency is. But they
Yeah.
know the word Bitcoin and they know the word Dogecoin. So,
Yeah.
um, I think that once Ethereum is, um, starts to like something will be made with Ethereum or on Ethereum, where it's undeniable that the technology is needed. And I think from
Yeah.
there, everyone will start talking about it. And I think then you've got, okay, then why is Bitcoin valuable? Okay, let's dilute Bitcoin a little bit and Ethereum's price goes up and corrects itself. Because although Bitcoin is the father, and I know that there's some great companies like the Stacks organization, Stack, like STX is their cryptocurrency. They're creating a smart contract, method for Bitcoin's blockchain. That's the other thing is blockchain size. So like Bitcoin's only reason that it's so big, one of its only reasons is because its blockchain is the biggest blockchain in the world.
Yeah.
And Ethereum's is like pretty big, but nowhere as close to Bitcoin's.
Mhm.
So it's hard to justify like all that infrastructure is there for Bitcoin. That's billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars of infrastructure, and power being run towards Bitcoin. So, I mean, I could see
Yeah. No, it's super
Ethereum sitting. What do
insightful.
you think? What do you think? Ethereum's going to go to? What's your price prediction? What's your hot take
A
on
million
Ethereum?
dollars. No.
$1 billion.
No, I don't have enough true data behind me to actually say a reasonable answer that doesn't, just sound crazy. But I think as a whole, I think, well, you saw it peak right around 4,900. And that was, with the spike. I think you could see, like you said, probably 10, 20,000 in the future, just as people actually start to adopt it, and that's as the function follows. And that's like, I think, really important, like for me is right now you have that concept kind of like sandbox. Sandbox is a great concept. They proved that you could sell land and people would buy digital virtual land. But until the games actually follow it, it's not worth much. And that's why I think, Ethereum or a cryptocurrency as a whole, you've seen that. But now you've finally, in the last few years, seen utilization actually become more and more popular. And I even know, like even just with cryptocurrency ATM machines, I know those are starting to pop up, and even some businesses I have worked with have talked about starting to put them in their own business. So I think you'll see is once you can actually utilize it and people start transferring their USD, actual physical US money into more Ethereum, I think you'll see that price go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But
good.
good. I
You
think we'll
didn't
end
give
it
me
there.
you didn't give
And
me a prediction though. You didn't give me
I think by June of 2023, we will see it at $8,300.
okay. Double.
I think you'll see. No, that's a lot. Give me your. No, no, I don't want your prediction. I'll say, I definitely think we'll see, spike and then it pull back in the next year or two. I think probably what you'll see is by like 2025, it'll be over like 13K easily.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
agree.
opinion.
I mean I think five figure for sure.
Yeah, I think.
Ethereum touches five figures. 100%.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, I can't say in the next year really because I think it'll fluctuate so much. I think you'll see an overhype. I think Ethereum 2.0, if they release that, it'll be a huge. You'll see a spike, and then you'll see a pullback as it normally does, and people won't really. It'll kind of be like what just happened, and then once the utilization and it actually starts to progress with Ethereum 2.0, that's when I think you'll see the dramatic
Yeah.
spike. So hopefully within the next few years, that'll actually come to fruition.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully.
well, good.
So I've got a lot of money staked in ETH 2.0 right now.
There you go. Hey, put your money where your mouth is. Love it. Well, good. You want to end it there, and we'll
All
be
right. Yeah,
back
we can end it.
Tuesday.
Our one
Good.
viewer, shout out.
Um, hey, if I had, 30,000